we've shut down an entire data center before and rerouted all of that traffic immediately to a totally different geographic location.
This is the minimum level requirement that we want to see and set that standard at that point so that everybody else can say, okay, I'm going to invest in my technology. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to really stand out.
When I'm not on the computer, you can find me on a tractor. You can find me on some mowers there. You can find me planting trees.
They're handling virtual reality and warehouse logistics and shipping and you know the video game world and everything that goes into all of that. They have to build a platform that operates across all of that. And so WordPress becomes a small focus. Welcome to Impressive Hosting, where we uncover the core tenets of great WordPress hosting. I am your host, Jesse Friedman. Before we dive in, remember to check out impressive.host. It's where you can comment on episodes, ask follow-up questions, and submit questions for upcoming guests. You'll also find all the links to follow, like, and subscribe wherever you listen. With me today is a good friend and colleague, Joshua Goode. He's the WP Cloud Technical Solutions Engineer. He's a sales engineer. He's the security guru, the innovation magician on our team, the integration wizard. He does everything that helps us look good at WP Cloud. Josh, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about WP Cloud and everything else we got going on.
Well, thank you, Jesse. It's very kind words there. But I guess when I explain what I do to people, it's just I try to get people to have the best experience with WP Cloud as possible, whether it's you as a host or your customers that you're trying to get onboarded to your hosting solution that uses our platform.
And you do that so well. You also make me and the rest of the WP Cloud sales team look so good doing it. So thank you for that.
We couldn't do it without you or our massively talented engineering team. Well, I want to say massive sometimes, but we have a pretty good core, and I wouldn't say small. We have a good tight knit team. So many thanks to them, of course.
Very efficient team, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah. So remind us, where are you located?
I'm in the East Tennessee area here in the United States, a nice rural mountainous region with nice rivers and valleys. I guess it's part of the Tennessee Valley system. So, and it's just the awesome, benefit of working with Automatic is being fully remote. So I can be out here where you normally wouldn't find a lot of tech employees. We do have some cities like Chattanooga and a little bit further away, Nashville and Knoxville, but those are like 2 hours away. So it's just great being able to be in this nice, kind of easygoing area and still being able to focus on the tech world.
Yeah, that's very cool because you're very connected into everything that we're doing from a technical engineering security standpoint, all that, but you also find some time to unplug too. You do some analog offline mechanical stuff, right?
A little bit.
A farm?
Yeah. So we have some old farmland that's been, in the family and stuff. Nothing that we've ever made a lot of money off of, but we probably spend more money just kind of keeping the land clean and making sure that it's kind of there for the future, whether we hold on to it or it gets passed down or it becomes part of some kind of land grant thing. We just try to keep it good for us, keep it good for nature. So I do spend a lot of time out there in the fields, cleaning stuff up, helping our tree population be curated to the trees that we want and is best for nature. And so, when I'm not on the computer, you can find me on a tractor. You can find me on some mowers there. You can find me planting trees. So it's a bit of a contrast, but it's good. It gets me out there, gets me some sun, gets me a little sweat equity into hopefully contributing to a more beautiful area down here.
That's awesome. I think it's super important to actually physically unplug and get into the wild every once in a while. I have a sabbatical coming up, and we'll have some news about that at the end of this episode. But my thing is I want to read, I want to write, I want to connect with the planet a little bit better. So I spend all my time at the beach, camping, being outdoors. So I'm always a little envious when I get to hear about how you're out doing some work or something like that.
Yeah, it is nice. I would say it's not always fun.
Of
sometimes
course not. But
sometimes it's not always fun, but no, it is great. I'm very lucky to
yeah.
kind of have that space to disconnect to. And
It's very cool that you're thinking about like sustaining and sustainability in terms of like the environment and the natural elements around you, but you're also thinking about that in terms of WordPress and the internet, the open web. And so you've been working with WP Cloud one way or the other for quite a while now. I've had the pleasure of working with you for what has it been, almost 2 years now, very closely. But prior to that, you were also working at Pressable on top of WP Cloud. So tell us a little bit about like, where your, history within Automatic and working with WP Cloud has evolved and what it is that, just kind of drives you that way.
yeah, so we're going over 6 years now of being automatic. I kind of got started with WordPress.com and also some early transition periods to what would become WP Cloud. Just some backstory on WordPress.com. Um, when we decided that we wanted to offer some higher level plans that expanded the capabilities and performance for users. The old plans were very performant, but we wanted to both allow people to um, expand their customization options and do more advanced kind of developer focused things. And so at that time, we worked on this infrastructure that was shared in a way with Pressable. And that was a known, internally, we called that Atomic, and that was Atomic V1. At a later time, though, we wanted to get Pressable, Atomic, or Pressable and WordPress.com, all these things on a singular platform with potential future support for allowing other hosts, external hosts, to use and enjoy the same benefits. And so that became internally as Atomic V2. And so I was there from the kind of early start of V1 and really using that. And I was heavily involved in the transition period of to Atomic V2, which ultimately became WP Cloud. And so spent that first half on WordPress.com, kind of worked my way up a bit through different teams and different projects, and ultimately supporting a lot of their operations on WP Cloud, and then moved over to Pressable to serve as their technical lead, senior technical lead, and helping their focused development team and their support and the whole company there make the most out of their WP Cloud integrations and supporting any kind of issues or something that they encountered along the way. And then once we decided to really focus on expanding WP Cloud and getting more hosts on, once that kind of decision was made that we really did want to open it up. And Jesse, that's a lot of that is due to you and your work. That's when I joined y'all and joined the WP Cloud team officially.
Yeah. I remember where I was when I heard you were joining the team, and I was very excited. And it was actually on the heels of CloudFest in, I forget what year it was, but I remember seeing that we had some partners of WP Cloud wearing WP Cloud swag. There was a lot of talk about WP Cloud. It was really like the word of mouth was starting to kind of rise up very quickly. And I was like thinking to myself, like, we're going to be getting a lot more partners in, and we are getting partners in regularly now using WP Cloud because they see the value in it. And I was like, who's gonna run this? Who's gonna like make sure that these hosting companies have an awesome experience? And so when I found out that you were joining the team, I was ecstatic. And so the efforts there around, you touched on what kind of came out of us needing to build WP Cloud as a way to serve our own needs, was then made available to other hosting companies. And the way in which we kind of describe this is that, WP Cloud is the platform that we built for ourselves to say, like, how can we do this at scale? How can we do it on top of a cloud platform that we own and operate, that we're not reliant on a giant cloud platform somewhere else that doesn't have a focus on WordPress or care about WordPress the way that we do. And then, so we built it internally to service those needs. And then we said to ourselves, like, how can we make this accessible to other hosting companies? And the reason we wanted to do that was because It's very easy these days, I think, to get into hosting. You could do it as a reseller. You can do it, layering on top of other platforms. You can build your own homegrown thing, whatever it might be. There's so many entry points into hosting. And so what that means is that there's a lot of people getting started with it who maybe necessarily don't have like the years and years of experience that you do, Josh, or that other people do, or whatever, or they're leveraging something like a cloud platform that isn't WordPress focused, and so it's not solving specific WordPress problems. And so what we thought about was like, could we make WP Cloud accessible uh, to allow hosts to offer a higher standard of hosting, but do it through a lens of like it being WordPress first. And so that I think is something that you, myself, Elise, the other people on the team, Barry, we're very proud of, is that, WP Cloud is WordPress focused. As of right now, it is a WordPress first platform, and it has these guardrails up specifically to solve very specific problems for WordPress. In your experience working in this realm across multiple different hosting companies now, and now making it available to hosting platforms, what are some of the success stories that you're seeing? Like, where do you feel like hosting companies are benefiting the most from WP Cloud?
Well, just to take a step back, what we've done with WP Cloud is we've taken the many years of experience hosting, well over 1 million sites on WordPress.com. We took all of our experience hosting enterprise sites on WordPress VIP. We took all the experience from Pressable, who was at the time when we really started that partnership. Pressable was a pretty rising or top star already in the managed hosting space. And so we took all of that and we really boiled it down to what really works for you as a host, what really works for your customers, and how do you strategically fulfill the right needs at the right time and do it well and do it to where it can be profitable. And for both us and any partner that we're working with. And that essentially was the formula for WP Cloud. And we took people who's had experience in the hosting space, specifically WordPress hosting space, across all of those different, whether it's VIP, WordPress.com, and took all of that great knowledge and experience to build what we have. And so that's really allowed these hosts, our external partners, to just take advantage of taking something that can be so complex, getting hosting just right, getting your performance, your security just right, and pairing it with being able to spin up a site in seconds and have it accessible with all of these features, whether we're talking about our built-in caching that covers origin caching, edge caching, object caching, or whether we have our security features of our WAF and our DDoS protection. A lot of benefits from Edge come into play there. Whether we have our patching to where we can apply vulnerability patches to the entire platform before a plugin or theme has even had a chance to investigate. All these things are built in. And again, a host can come in, send a single API call, and within seconds have a site that's fully accessible with all of that ready to go out of the box. So when we look at some of our partners, whether it be Bluehost Cloud, Porkbun, Convesio, I think it's just that ease of not having to set these things up, not having to go through and go through a checklist and making sure that you're provisioning all of these things. Not only are we handling that for you, but it's all automated in a way to where Porkbun can, where are they at now? They've had a massive kind of migration and growth here recently. And all they've had to do was send a single API call, maybe run some scripts that we allow them to do, also over the API and via other features like client SSH. And they're able to either spin up new sites or completely migrate stuff from their old legacy infrastructure within seconds. Some of the migrations may take minutes, but without any kind of heavy investment in having to spin up new infrastructure or spin up really advanced scripts to make it happen.
Yeah, I love that when I talk to a hosting company, I get to say that the WP Cloud platform itself exists below this API layer, so that the hosting company still gets to put their brand first. They get to focus on the connection and the communication that they have with their end customer. They maintain the ownership of that relationship. They provide support, and they are responsible for what is held on that site. And so that's, them creating a go-to-market strategy that allows them to maintain everything that's, important to them as a hosting company. But then there's this layer that goes on beneath that, where WP Cloud just gets out of the way in terms of branding. We don't interfere in the way in which they run their business. They're free to build plans any way that they want to. We have hosting companies who bundle resources and allow you to kind of distribute them how you want to across multiple sites. We have some hosting companies that just have a preset defined exactly, this is exactly what you get. And there's, a lot less flexibility because they know exactly what their customers need and they want to present just that. And so they have all these options and they can go to market any way that they want to. But having everything operate at that API layer means that WP Cloud is focused on what we do best and that hosting company is focused on what they do best. One of the things I think that I hear of most often is that both internally within Automatic and externally is that once they get WP Cloud up and running, they're not getting tickets anymore around infrastructure. So the support requests end up actually significantly decreasing because they're not getting issues around rate limiting or issues around security problems or things like that. But what they are getting is, more questions around how do I run a marketing campaign on my website or whatever, that is much more focused on the customer being successful. And so, I often get the opportunity to ask, these hosting companies, what would you do if your customer service team was less focused on infrastructure related tickets and problems and white screens of death and things like that, and more focused on helping those customers be successful? And you, as someone who both operate from a perspective of helping a hosting company be successful, but you're also getting your hands dirty with end customers as well. Do you find that to be the case, that the support for WP Cloud powered sites is definitely significantly reduced in terms of platform related tickets?
Yeah. So, comparing with my life before Automatic, with, my experience on WordPress.com and Pressable, which are clients of WP Cloud in a sense, the support was totally different. Prior in past work, we would get requests, hey, I need to up my memory limit for this, or I need to increase the timeout time and stuff like that. And we've taken those experiences and from the start on WP Cloud day one, we set these certain settings and different levels of things to be kind of not just perfectly in the middle, but often well above what's necessary. And the way that we've built our infrastructure in a way allows us to do that. And again, allows us to do it in a profitable manner for both us and our clients. So, you may have users saying, hey, I need to come in and increase my timeout for this, or increase my file uploads or something, which is a classic infrastructure related question. And often it's our support teams, if they even reach you, because a lot of plugins are smart. They'll check and see if it's necessary. And most of them will recognize, oh no, the user doesn't have to do anything. But maybe a user's reading a guide or watching a YouTube tutorial or something to where, oh, you must go do this thing. You must up the limit for this setting or something. And when a host gets a support request like that, it's mostly them it's a quick reply. It's well, no, you don't have to adjust that. Here's what it is. Right. It's well beyond that requirement. And then, when it comes down to,
you're actually lucky because you're on the WP Cloud platform.
Exactly.
Don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that. And it was a breath of fresh air on my time supporting WordPress.com and helping the team support Pressable. Was we really did not have to worry about complaints and worry about just these more advanced requests. I'll say there will always be some support requests where ultimately maybe adjustment is being asked for. A feature that may be out by the time this podcast is released is related to PHP memory limits, for example. And we're going to allow hosts to, just with a simple API call or adjustment when they're creating a site, they can actually set it when they're creating a site, change the PHP memory limit. We're already pretty high, but we'll allow you to go all the way up to 2 gigs, for example, if a site really needs that. And it's often rare that we see a site truly need like 2 gigs of memory per PHP worker. But it's part of the flexibility that we're offering. If you do encounter a customer that absolutely needs that, you will be able to set that. But that's a pretty strong edge case.
Yeah, I want to talk about that though, because when I'm out there and I'm talking about WP Cloud and I'm talking to a hosting company, a lot of times they come to us and they say, well, we have this agency or we have this website that has these requirements. And they say, well, can you up your memory limit per worker? And what you're touching on there is this a new feature. And I want to talk about the genesis of that and how we got to it. But what I'd say at that time, it would be like, no, you probably don't even need to do that on the WP Cloud platform. And they'd say, well, no, we have to because we do it on this platform now. And there's no way this client's going to be happy unless they have the ability to go up to 2 gigabytes of memory. And it's funny because they come with these misconceptions that because of the fact that they were forced into configuring their website a certain way on a certain host, that they are going to have to replicate that on the WP Cloud platform. But in fact, that's not necessarily the case. And what we see is that what we do is we ask a hosting company to say, bring your site over, let's throw some traffic at it, we'll show you how it can operate on this. And I think that kind of goes back to, these conversations that we have with hosting companies around the, whenever they're analyzing WP Cloud, they're also looking at these big cloud giants, right? And they have to compete with them on their focuses. And what I mean by that is that, like, if you look at like AWS or Google Cloud, WordPress hosting, specifically website hosting, is a small fraction of their experience and their time and focus. So of course, all those engineers that they have and all those people working on that platform, they're handling virtual reality and warehouse logistics and shipping and the video game world and everything that goes into all of that. They have to build a platform that operates across all of that. And so WordPress becomes a small focus. And so what we get to say is that we're a WordPress-First cloud platform. Everything that we're doing is WordPress-focused. And so I'm curious from that perspective, because I can talk about this all day, but I'm curious from your perspective, like, how do you think that's helped hosting companies to have a little bit more, confidence and assurance inside of WordPress hosting in general, but also like WP Cloud's platform, that we are a very granularly focused platform?
Yeah, so it's so much of the power of WP Cloud is just that one focus. That's it. We have one focus. It's hosting WordPress and doing it in the best way that we've identified as possible.
Yeah.
And that, around the time we're recording this, we did see a large cloud hosting player have some issues, and that impacted our community quite a bit. Now, it's not to say that as a cloud provider that we may not face issues in the future. I will say we've never had kind of a outage of that scale, but we have a lot of redundancy built in with that. And so one thing, a lot of people like to talk about the performance of WP Cloud and the security and the ease. But one thing a lot of people may not appreciate is that we have multi-region automated failover built in to every site. That a lot of other to recreate that in another cloud environment or with another host can be very expensive, and it's something that we were very focused on from day one. And so what this means is whether if it's one of our either a single server in one of our data centers, whether it's the entire data center is having issues or goes online, all of these sites are fully replicated in real time, or the closest real time that physics allows to a completely another region. And maybe a story we can talk about in a future episode or something is we've had situations where we've shut down an entire data center before and rerouted all of that traffic immediately to a totally different geographic location. Not a single client like even noticed. They didn't reach out.
Yeah.
They didn't talk to us. And to my knowledge, none of their customers contacted them. I even went around and checked with people to
Right.
spot check that. And so I think that and explaining that to our partners, and also informing them so they can really explain that to their customers is a very powerful thing. And our singular focus of us building out things in just the right way to allow us to have that failover, because sure, you can get into the cloud space and failover can be common. You often pay a lot for it, or you have to build it out, and that's a common thing. But for us to really hone down on as fast,
I would say it's common when you're analyzing cloud,
well,
right? But
yeah.
like across the entire ecosystem of WordPress, right? It's actually pretty rare.
Right. I would say it can be a common goal or a common thing that's, I wouldn't say you're right. Common, maybe not the best word. More of it's a known thing that some people do try.
Sure. It's something
go
that's
out
top
and
of
do.
mind for folks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you often don't find that in your cloud hosting providers or your WordPress hosts. And so with us and with that one focus, we've been able to ensure that our replication is built out in a way to where we can do this near real time, which I would say real time in the grand
I
scheme
think it's
of
safe
things.
to just say real time.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, it is, and that's what we do say. I always like to, as a technical perspective, I'm like, well, physics exists. We're still dealing with hardware and physical things and the speed of light.
Right. We're not all on quantum computers yet.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, but with that, we've been able to so hyper focused on WordPress and WordPress hosting to where that just kind of to a user, to a host, it just works magically, and it works so insanely well to where, again, we shut down the entire data center and no one knew. So
yeah, I think for folks at home, like, let's translate this for a quick second here. Like, you think about a perspective of a hosting company saying that they offer, some level of guarantee of uptime. A lot of WP Cloud partners actually offer 100% uptime because they know that they can do it. And the way in which they're doing that is, or the promises that they're making, like if you're an end customer who's running an e-commerce shop, for example, and every minute of downtime is lost orders or problems or going to result in customer service requests, and the list goes on, it can be incredibly expensive. Like a lot of times I think people think about downtime as like, oh, I missed out on the chance to get a visitor who's going to click on an ad or who's going to click on a product and pay for it. But the list goes on from there. Like it's way beyond that, because I can't get in, so now I'm contacting support. And even if your site's back up in 30 seconds, that support ticket still needs to be answered. And that's X amount of cents or dollars per ticket that's going to cost you money. You're going to be pissing off your customers, and you're going to be ruining your brand. The list goes on in terms of the cost of that. And so the way in which the WP Cloud is operating is that we're replicating the site in real time to another data center. And then in that moment of chaos where something actually does go wrong, we're rerouting that traffic so that a visitor to a site is not actually experiencing that downtime. And so what you're talking about is that these customers don't even know that this stuff is happening behind the scenes, and that's how well it works. And it's one of those things that's like, it's so important that we are very vocal about it to our hosting partners, because we want them to be able to communicate it to their end customers. And I would say to you, if you're at home and you're listening to this and you're running an e-commerce shop or a new site or something that's like super critical that you have uptime, I would challenge you to go to your hosting company and say, are you offering, real-time automated failover at some level? Because if you don't have that, there's really no reason for you not to move to a WP Cloud powered partner. And it doesn't have to be WordPress.com or Pressable. It could be Bluehost Cloud, Convesio, Porkbun. The list goes on of partners who are using WP Cloud because they identify this as a must-use core tenant of what we're here to talk about on this podcast, which is great WordPress hosting, right? And so when you create that as a default standard for hosting, what we're doing in our work on WP Cloud is making it accessible to hosting companies to provide a higher standard of hosting. And it's something that you don't necessarily get from other cloud platforms because it's on you to build that yourself. And so, yes, they give you, access to data centers and boxes and things like that. But what you don't get is the thought and the effort and the innovation that goes into crafting and building a platform specifically for WordPress to solve those specific problems.
Yeah, that's right, Jesse. And this is something that's just baked in. You don't have to turn it on. As soon as
That's
you
right.
create that site with that one API call, it begins. It starts from
That's
there.
right.
So
Any WP Cloud partner, if you see the words WP Cloud, you have automated real-time failover. There's no one who is on WP Cloud and doesn't have access to that.
yeah, that's right.
On by default. Yeah.
And I think, you bring up a good point. It's a great feature for people to look for in their host and to choose a WP Cloud partner. I mean, personally, if I left Automatic, I left WP Cloud and I was starting a new company, that would be a top number one requirement. The performance is key, security is key, but that would be a number one requirement, a table stakes thing that should just be there, regardless of where I host it. And so an easy choice for me, considering my bias, would be a WP Cloud hosting partner. Now, now, obviously, I would love for everyone who's looking for that feature to come to a WP Cloud host. But if anything, I hope that us offering this and offering it at this level and offering it in an affordable fashion just elevates the entire WordPress hosting community. So I would love to see a day to where, again, I would prefer personally and with my bias that people would come to WP Cloud host. But I also have a hope that we see that as a more common thing across the entire hosting community. And that's a lot of the things that we do with WP Cloud, our focus on just WordPress, our focus on these very specific features to offer the best WordPress experience possible. I see that as a way that we can get people to come, whether it's PortCon or many other hosts. But if anything, improve the entire hosting ecosystem to where people, I want to see WordPress succeed no matter where you're hosted. It's a major benefit and plus. Yeah, it's a major benefit and plus. If I would love it if you're on WP Cloud, but I want to see people loving and using WordPress anywhere, all the time. And if anything happens with what we do with WP Cloud, I hope at least one thing is that we elevate the hosting community.
I think that's exactly right. Because one of the things that we're talking about here is that we're setting a higher standard and making that accessible to all hosts. So if you're a hosting company and you have a few thousand customers, or your hosting company has 1 million customers, WP Cloud's accessible to you. And so you can use it, integrate it into your platform and make it accessible to your customers. And so what does that do? Obviously that's beneficial to Automatic. I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't help us keep the lights on and provide a better hosting experience to our customers. But at the same time, it is setting a higher standard for the ecosystem as a whole, so that even the hosting companies who don't choose to use WP Cloud are then going to have to benchmark themselves against it and say, can I provide this or better to be able to compete with now all these other hosting companies that are going to be leveraging it? And if they can't do that, then they're going to have a problem. So it's not just about us, making it available and spreading it across the ecosystem. It's about us saying, this is how you should be hosting WordPress. This is the minimum level requirement that we want to see, and set that standard at that point so that everybody else can say, okay, I'm going to invest in my technology. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to really stand out. And then the people who can't do that are going to, by the natural course or the Darwinism of capitalism is going to, be phased out. So it's actually, it really helps me to feel like extremely good about the work that I'm doing, the work that you're doing, the team is doing, because it's not just about us distributing a platform that makes us feel like, we're reaching internal business goals, but it's also about helping the ecosystem to thrive. And what we talked about, just to kind of loop this all the way back to the beginning of this episode, and your efforts around sustainability, that's about sustaining WordPress and making sure that it's around for the next 10, 100 years. Josh, listen, this was such a great conversation. I want to keep it going, but we need to take a break and come back for a part 2.
Great. Sounds good, Jesse.
All right, see you in a bit. Thanks for joining us on another episode of Impressive Hosting, where we uncover the core tenets of great WordPress hosting. Do you have a follow-up question for today's guest, thought or comment on anything we talked about, a future guest suggestion, a hosting horror story? What do you think makes great WordPress hosting? All your comments shape this show. Drop them on impressive.host. We also appreciate you following us on social media and subscribing to the podcast on your favorite platform. Finally, do check out our list of open source projects that need support at impressive.host. Whether it's code, community, or cache, you can make a difference. See you next time.